of news here. So at the end of the Old Testament, we were sort of left off, like a story without an ending. They didn't have to wait long for the ending, did they? A week? A month, maybe?
Why are we laughing?
The Jews that Cyrus let return to Jerusalem, who were eager to see God's plan continue, had to wait 400 years.
400 years? 400 years between the end of the Old Testament and the beginning of the New Testament. Why did God wait so long? What was the point?
Pastor Paul, tell us about the fullness of time.
The fullness of time is God's perfect timing, like a flower blooming or a tree giving fruit. God acts in history when the time is exactly right.
So, why wasn't the time right at the end of the Old Testament?
Interesting question. Sunday school lady?
I'm on it, Phil. Only God knows for sure why he acts when he acts, but here's what we think. God has a blessing coming, and he wants it to spread to the whole world, not just Israel. So what do you need to spread something new to the whole world?
The internet!
That would work today, yes. But we're back in 450 BC, remember?
Oh, was that before the internet?
Yes, that was before the internet.
Oh. Monkeys on bicycles!
What?
A lot of them.
Close, but no. For a new idea to spread, you need an easy way to travel and an easy way to communicate. And at the end of the Old Testament, neither of those were easy. Traveling was hard because there were no good roads. Travelers walked along muddy footpaths and were often attacked by bandits. Constant wars between different groups also stopped people from getting around. It wasn't safe. But even if you could travel, that didn't mean you could communicate because everyone spoke different languages.
I can see where that would make it hard for a new idea to spread around the world.
Yep, communicating was hard and traveling was even harder. But over the next 400 years, all of that would change.
The writing of the Old Testament stopped around 450 BC, when the Persian Empire is still going strong. From history and archaeology, we know that 100 years later, a young man is born in Greece who will become the greatest military leader the world has ever seen. His name is Alexander, though today we know him as Alexander the Great. Before Alexander turns 30, he's led his armies all across the known world. He conquers the Persians, the Egyptians, and everyone else he meets, all the way to India. And he never lost a battle.
Undefeated. Very impressive. Like me in ping pong.
What? I've beaten you in ping pong.
Okay, not exactly like me in ping pong, but I've won a few.
Right, so why did he finally stop?
Alexander's army wanted to go home. They'd conquered practically the whole world and they were worn out. So Alexander stopped to rest in Babylon, but then got sick and died when he was only 32 years old.
This little history lesson is interesting and all, but what's it have to do with the New Testament and the fullness of time?
Right. Well, Alexander loved the Greek language and Greek culture, so he spread them everywhere he went. And pretty soon, people everywhere, in Africa, in Asia, even in Jerusalem, were learning to read and write in Greek.
One language for the whole world. That's one of the things we need to spread an idea.
What about the other stuff? Roads.
And peace. It needs to be safe to travel.
After Alexander died, his generals cut his empire into 4 pieces, just like Daniel had prophesied in the book of Daniel. But then, over the next 200 years, those 4 kingdoms were gradually swallowed up by a new empire rising in Italy from the city of Rome.
The Roman Empire. I've heard of that.
That was big.
It was the biggest empire the world had ever seen.
And just as much as Alexander liked to conquer, the Romans liked to build. And they especially liked to build
Bicycles.
No.
Lawn furniture.
No.
The internet.
Not likely.
Nope. The Romans loved to build roads.
Roads. Roads! That's what we need!
Big, wide, straight, smooth roads connecting every city in the Roman Empire. To rule such a big empire, the Romans needed to be able to move soldiers around quickly to stop any trouble that might pop up. Because even more than roads, the Romans wanted peace.
Peace! That's the last thing we need! Bingo!
Bingo?
I've got everything I need. Roads, peace, common language. Bingo!
Now the ancient world was experiencing Pax Romana. That's Latin for Roman peace. God was orchestrating history. Starting in 27 BC and going till about 70 AD was a 100-year period of time where everything was lined up perfectly so that something starting with the Jews in Jerusalem could spread like wildfire through the whole world.
If you want to spread a blessing, there's a couple things I'm guessing that you'll need.
Communication and transportation.
In order for your blessing to grow into a tree from just a seed.
Communication and transportation.
And peace.
That too.
And peace.
It's true.
First you need a common language so everyone can follow what you say.
Communication. That's communication.
Then you're gonna have to travel, and roads are gonna help you on your way.
Transportation. That's transportation.
One language all to speak.
And thanks to Alexander, that language will be Greek.
And going far from home.
Good roads will make it easy, and for that we're thanking Rome.
Hey Clive, it's not much fun travelling when you get attacked by bandits or you keep running into wars.
No, Ian, it isn't much fun travelling when you get attacked by bandits or you keep running into wars.
So it seems like there's one more thing we need for this blessing to really spread.
What's that, Ian?
We need the fighting and the wars to cease.
I think they call that peace.
And now that everything's in line, we've reached the fullness of time.
You know, I reached the fullness of time last Thanksgiving.
How so?
I was so full, I knew it was time to stop eating.